Welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly. My name is Scott, or Guff.
I don't think we've ever called you Scott before on the podcast.
No, well, we're Scott today.
All right.
No, Scott, Guff, whatever.
Well, I'm Winklebot.
And you're Winklebot or
Javen, as we normally
Yes.
say.
This week I'd like to talk about something that's kind of, it wasn't something back in the day, back in my day, which was a long time ago, was even a thing. This is something that's kind of started a few years, well, probably half a decade ago, maybe 5-10 years ago, and slowly just kind of progressed its way out. And that's free to play games.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about what the effects of free to play games have done to the gaming industry as a whole. What's it done maybe to you personally? What's it done to me? What's it done to other people we know? And just get in on it. Let's talk about it. So, how has free to play gaming changed you? Change your gaming? Has it done anything for you?
Well, I mean, as far as I guess the benefits of it.
Yep.
The pros, if you will. You could try a game without investing any money, so you're more likely to try it.
Right. Yeah, which is huge.
It lets me kind of feed the beast that is my need to have a massive amount of games to try.
Right. I have, yeah.
It's I mean, as far as inclusive gaming communities, you're not going to find bigger ones than free to play gaming.
Right. And I
because you literally, if you have the hardware to play the game, you can play the game.
Right.
And pretty much, I would say the majority of households in this country now have some sort of hardware to play games on.
Right, yeah. Free to game can be, or free to play.
Mobile.
A lot of mobile apps are free.
Yeah.
They just get you with the other stuff, which we'll talk about in the near future, how they.
Yeah, so I mean, it hasn't honestly affected me a lot, other than two of my most played games are free to play games.
Which are?
Dota 2.
Yep.
And Smite.
That was the other one. We were talking about that game a couple days ago. I couldn't remember the
name.
Yeah,
and they're both free to play games.
Yep, MOBAs.
They're team-based games. And you will find all walks of life playing it.
Right.
Because it is so accessible.
So do you think that part of that is because it's literally free?
Yeah, I think it's because
that you can choose to put money into it.
Yeah,
most of it's skins and things that don't necessarily change the game that
I
much.
mean, ostensibly, if a game is free to play but it's garbage, no one's gonna play it.
Right, exactly.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't say it. People will play it.
Yeah,
there's the sunken cost
just won't
fallacy
be that.
of I've put time into it and I've learned it. I should play it.
Right. Yeah, Caves of Cud.
Yeah.
I bought it. Now I gotta play it at least once in a while.
I guess I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I'll bounce it back to you.
Yeah.
How about free to play games with respect to competition between developers and innovation in gaming?
Right.
What have you seen from
that? I think that it started out as just to target people who weren't playing to try and get people into the world of gaming. I think that's where it started out as. And then developers are like, whoa. And I don't know specifics. I didn't do the research to find out which game really started the free to play, whether it was Dota or maybe CS:GO or something. Cause I know they all cost money up front. Those ones back in the day.
Yeah.
They're all free now. It don't cost you anything to play them.
I think one of the first, not to interject in your side of things here, but I think I have a little bit of knowledge on this.
Yeah, no.
And
exactly.
Anecdotal evidence for me is Team Fortress 2.
Okay, yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. Yep.
It was originally in the orange box.
Yep, orange box. Yep.
But it became free to play pretty early on in its life.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever. I don't know if I personally I've never played it, but I don't think I've ever known that it cost anything for anybody.
Yeah, I've known people who have bought Orange Box and
bought Orange Box, but that wasn't the only game in the Orange Box, was it?
No, Half-Life.
That was pretty much Half-Life,
yeah.
Which is why people bought that and buy it for Team Fortress 2, I would think.
Yeah, it was essentially a free-to-play game because it was an add-on,
right?
More or less. And that innovated the kind of a whole genre of stuff we have now, the hero shooter,
right,
or the class-based shooters,
right. I think my first interaction with any kind of free to play would be Blizzard had something back when StarCraft first came out. As long as, say, you bought StarCraft, Blizzard would let you install what they call the spawn at time, which is free for me.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have to have a key code or anything. I put it on my computer. I could install the spawn, and then I could play multiplayer with you for free.
But you couldn't play the campaign.
Right now, I couldn't play the campaign, but I could play with anybody that had the free-to-play multiplayer.
Which is really interesting to me.
I think that's where I remember my first free-ish game to play.
And that's kind of funny to me because the other free quote-unquote game was the games like Super Mario 64 that came with a console.
Right, yeah, well, console, yeah.
That was the other quote-unquote free game.
Right, yep.
But as far as like pushing innovation, free-to-play games kind of do. I mean, I don't feel like there's been a whole lot for innovation in free-to-play games as of late. The model has kind of been set and the standard has been set
Right.
at this point. But the idea of making Dota,
right?
Someone made League of Legends, which is free to play,
right?
Which arguably is better than Dota 1, more popular than Dota 1,
right?
And then it made Valve push Dota 2,
right?
Which is a free to play game, and then Blizzard came out with Heroes of the Storm, which is the same genre, free to play game.
Yeah.
And then Hi-Rez came out with Smite, which is another in the genre, free-to-play game.
Yeah, no, and it just kind of fed off each other.
And as far as innovation, it bred competition between these developers to get people to play their games for free.
Yeah, for me, it definitely, not even for me, but for the people that I've been around, the free-to-play community was not a primary focus for as long as I can remember. I would say now, though, with things like, let's throw it out there, Magic Arena.
Yeah.
I mean, how long was MTGO out there? Magic Gathering Online. It's still going, right?
Yeah, it still is. Yeah.
Okay. Who talks about it now, though?
I mean, nobody ever really did, anyways.
No, that's exactly right. But that was, you could play that game for free. Initially, you could, but after a while, you had to buy cards and.
Yep. I mean, if you wanted to compete, yeah.
Yeah, if you wanted to compete with Arena, you don't need to do that. You literally could just play the game.
Yeah.
For free, and you get like Pokemon was doing the same thing. They had a free to play version, and these are companies that aren't typically gaming companies, but it is still a free to play video game.
Yeah.
And so that free to play, and we're talking about how it's made developers compete with each other, and you'll also see that in a lot of well, they don't do so much anymore, but free to play kind of started with just demos. You get the first 2 levels of a game for free on a CD, whether it was your Xbox, your PlayStation, your Nintendo, whatever it was, you could get free to play. Well, Nintendo never had CDs, but not until the Wii. But even then, you could get those free to play. You get to the PC, free to play. I think the biggest thing for developers of free to play was that, or is now, that it will extend a game's life for almost indefinite.
Yeah, because there will always be people that are willing to try it or play it.
Right, and I like to use this game I played off and on over 20 years of my life. It's Ultima Online. And it was never free to play as a company. They just didn't do that because they're a paid service MMO. But I say the last 5 years plus, free charge have been popping up all over, which is places to go play that game for free.
Free servers, yeah.
Free servers. But you can also play on their main servers for free for a considerable amount of time. And I think it's just, what that does is take a game that the population's down to maybe 100 players a day and brings it up to 3 or 4. It gives it a little more life to let them keep developing and keep going and making more money. So I like it.
I guess let's talk about community engagement next.
Yep.
How are the communities in free-to-play games?
Okay. My initial reaction on every free-to-play game I've ever played, hands down, the communities have been crap. My initial reaction.
Yep.
They've been just toxic and garbage because there's no financial investment in most people.
So hackers run rampant.
Hackers run rampant. People are just assholes because they can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, behave however they want. And what are you going to do? Okay, so they get banned. They just go create a new account and come back in.
Exactly.
But you get past that, that grief period, and I almost bet you've been through this with Dota and Smite. You get past that, you find a bunch of people that have invested time and take value in that investment, whether it's time or money, and want to play the game legitimately.
Yeah.
Once you get past the initial, like, it's like when you play an MMO, you got to get past that griefer stage.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, all of a sudden the whole world opens up for you.
Yeah.
And I think free to play is the same thing. I've played many, many games that are free to play, and the biggest issue I have is my inability to deal with that grief because I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Once I get past that and you get to the group of people that are just like, come with us.
It's almost like a network of gatekeepers.
Yeah,
really.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that in free to play games too.
That would be my biggest.
I will say
they have some of the biggest gaming communities ever, though.
Oh yeah,
because we were talking about this in another podcast. Who's the biggest free to play tournaments in the world? Or even biggest game tournaments in the world? Who does it?
Free to play games.
League of Legends,
Dota.
I mean, them are huge.
Counter-Strike.
And these are humongous games. Have millions and millions. I mean, they record these and show them live on Twitch and show them live on different streaming platforms.
I think that actually helps with the griefer situation a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to work for everybody, obviously.
Right.
But if you see that there's people that are playing this game at a high level and making money and getting achievements at a high level playing the game, that's going to make you want to take it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah. Me and my buddy were just talking about this last night. And his youngest son we were just talking about it. He said, yeah, my youngest son's really hard in the League of Legends. I said, well, let him do it. Just let him go. Before he graduates, let him try it. He's like, yeah, no. He said, you'd asked me this 10 years ago. I told him, no way. You're not going to make any money in gaming. He said, no. 10 years ago you could have, but really there was it's like you got a better chance to get struck by lightning than make money. But now,
with streaming,
you get into a good group of people, and you and your people work together well, especially if you're playing League of Legends or something. I mean,
well, and the thing is too is like in a lot of these free to play games like Smite, I keep using the MOBAs, but that's what I have.
That's the biggest free to play.
RuneScape is another great example. They have
that's an old
Iron Man competitions and all this other sort of thing, and they're free to play. Let's go into monetization a little bit because I want to talk about how RuneScape did it because I feel like they did it kind of right.
Okay.
So the way RuneScape did monetization, there's no skins, there's no pay to win.
Yep.
Really?
Right.
It's pay to get full access.
Okay.
So in RuneScape, when you go in, you can get all the way to max combat level.
Right.
You can do tons of quests. You can get lots of good gear. But the super endgame content, you're not going to have access to unless if you have memberships.
Right.
Which it used to be you pay X amount a month to get membership, just like you do with WoW.
Yeah, and almost every other MMO. Which is funny because almost all of them now offer free to play for a period of time.
Exactly. Because and RuneScape you can free to play indefinitely.
Right.
Also in RuneScape, with the advent of my experiences with old school RuneScape, and I think they did it right, you can in game grind up and buy tokens from other players. People can spend real money to buy tokens,
right?
Which then they can sell on the Grand Exchange, which is like the stock exchange, more or less, for RuneScape, for gold.
Right.
I am a super high-level member, and I don't want to grind out gold. I have access to the money to do it. I can buy a membership token,
right?
Sell it to somebody who is free to play in-game with in-game currency that you can accrue. No caps on how much you can accrue or how fast you can accrue it.
Right.
It's just how much time you put in and what skills do you have. They can buy that, and then they can get the membership and have access to more ways to generate gold.
Right.
And you can actually go infinite. You can be a membership. You can have paid membership in that game without ever spending a single dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of games that do something similar. Unfortunately, with these games, you have to buy the games up front. World of Warcraft's one of them.
Okay.
Technically, you can make enough money in World of Warcraft to buy the game token to play. It's just way harder than just buying the full retail version. But you still have to buy the expansions and all that. The other game is fairly infamous game, but has definitely shown that once you buy it, you play it pretty much forever free to play because of the tokens. That would be EVE Online.
Oh, yeah.
So you pay that. That's not technically true to the free to play system, but if someone gave you a game token, you can just jump on and play, and after that, you're just good forever. You
Yeah.
don't have to pay anymore. So it is free to play, not free to buy. But that's kind of the difference, I guess. But yes, RuneScape is that way.
I think that was.
It's a good way to do things.
And then the other one that I like,
Other companies have done it well too.
you could make the argument
Yep.
that is slightly pay to win.
Yep.
Which pay to win is a term that means if you pay real world money, you have an advantage over other players.
Right.
It's kind of true in RuneScape, but because there's no like PvP, like if you want to do a player versus player,
Right.
and you go if you're a free player in RuneScape, you can only play on free player worlds.
Okay.
If you were to bring a paid character onto a free player world, it locks you out of all of your equipment that is ping.
There you go.
So you can't use any skills or any equipment in a free world, a member world. And so if you're doing PvP or
Right.
any sort of competition, there's literally equal footing.
Right.
You might be able to progress your skills a little faster, have access to more efficient ways of doing it, but at the end game, at the point that you're fighting somebody else, you're on equal footing.
Right.
You have the same equipment, the same access to skills.
Interesting.
It makes a big difference.
I haven't never played RuneScape.
It's honestly quite brilliant how they did it. The other more common way people do this now is like in Smite and Dota and League. League's a little different, Smite's a little different. So
Right.
I'll use Dota as the primary example.
Right.
Dota, you have access to every character from the get-go. You do not have to buy any extra characters.
Right.
Pay real world money for anything. You have access to the entire hero pool from the get-go. The only thing you can buy in Dota is cosmetics.
Okay.
Or you can pay a monthly subscription fee to get access to analytics.
Okay.
Which the analytics let you level up your heroes and get like voice lines for them that you can use in game.
Right.
And it's for all heroes. You don't have to pay for each hero.
Right.
So and then it's just
for all.
It's like an experience system for playing heroes.
Right.
And then you also get analytics. So it'll tell you like win percentages of this hero versus this hero, and it will kind of help you on the analytics side of things.
That's interesting.
Which I think was a smart idea. But the guides and analytics, you can also get them for free.
Right.
There's websites and
yeah. I mean, if you have the disposable income, say for $10 a month or
it's not even that.
Or $5.
It's like it's $4.
You're right. I mean, that's less than a coffee.
And all it does is help pay for their servers. I'm pretty sure.
Probably, yeah. I just probably literally just keep or maybe prize pools for their ridiculous prizes they give out.
And then the other thing, so I think Dota does it right in that sense. So League, you have to buy heroes, or champs, they call them in League. So you get access to X amount of champs, and I think you get currency to buy like 2 extra champs or something like that. And then you have to buy the rest. Yeah. And so you don't get access to the entire pool.
So who does it wrong?
Who does it wrong? I think...
Wasn't there a company not long ago that was doing that microtransaction thing where they had loot boxes that pop out, and basically you buy the loot boxes in the free to play, but sometimes the loot boxes will give you pay to win items.
I vaguely recall this being a thing in one of the battle royales. I'm not sure
I can't remember which one. That's why.
But like you could buy supply drops with real money, and it would give you an absolute edge over the competition in the game.
Which I think where some of the
and you're still not sure exactly what you're going to get. It was a drop, right?
Yeah, I think that's some of the cons of it. Yeah, you could spend $10 on a loot box expecting that level of gear, and you may have got 50 cents worth of gear, monetary wise, because lots of the stuff you can sell on Steam or whatever platform you're on.
But the specific incident I'm talking about, they were dropping items for each individual match.
Right. Oh, geez.
So like weapons and armor and grenades and ammo.
Oh man.
And that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. If the way that you're doing your loot boxes and shit like that,
it makes it a little toxic, I think,
is that you gain a competitive advantage over the other players. That's the wrong way to do it.
Right. So now with all that said, and we're talking about the free to play, we've discussed a few positives and some negatives. How do you think that's impacted the development of these games? Like, has Dota kept up in development with somebody say like you have to pay for Overwatch when you get it?
Not anymore, I don't think.
Okay. So when you did when it first came on, I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
you had to buy it.
you paid for
And
Overwatch.
Overwatch come out with updates constantly.
Yeah.
Does Dota and League of Legends do that? Can they keep up with that?
I want to jump to a different game.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, let's go to an example. Yeah.
To explain this point. StarCraft 2, you originally had to buy.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
You had to buy Wings of Liberty, you had to buy Heart of the Swarm, you had to buy
You
Legacy.
had to buy it all. Yep.
That is all free now.
Okay.
And that game was on life support. That game was about to die. They switched to free to play, and now they're still doing updates to it. They're still doing balance updates. There's tournaments for it. And the only thing they release for it now is skins and sometimes new like commanders for the versus mode.
Right.
So, and then the campaign, you have to pay for the campaign.
Right.
Halo did it the same way. Halo Infinite. You can play Halo Infinite completely free, but if you want to play the campaign and get the story, you have to pay money.
Okay.
That's become the model now for a lot of these games.
Right.
And I think that's what you were asking about, right?
Yep. Yeah, I was asking about how do you think it's affected developers in the way they strategize for free to play compared to
it hasn't. Okay, so yeah. So to answer the question specifically, I think it has incentivized the developers to make a decent, polished multiplayer that is fun.
Right.
And update the multiplayer to keep people playing it and to get people interested enough in the game that they can then get the funding to produce the campaign.
Right.
Through skins and all that.
Right.
To get the campaign, make that, and then sell the campaign.
Right.
Which some people really care about the story of Halo. Some people play Halo just for the campaign. Some people play Call of Duty
Some people just
for the campaign.
For the Warthog. I mean, it's literally true.
So I think as far as like quality of development, I think it's kind of like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Because we have to, if we're talking about free-to-play games, we have to talk about mobile.
I like to think of it as, I've heard this. I'm not claiming this is my thought, but when I read it, it made total sense. Someone mentioned in one of the articles I was reading not that long ago, and I wish I could remember what it was. And maybe I will before the end of the podcast. We're in the golden age of gaming. Now, before people get wound up, the golden age doesn't necessarily mean a good thing, because the golden age of comics and the golden age of sports card collecting wasn't necessarily a good thing. The golden age was when they made so many comics, everybody had access to them, and there were millions of great comics out there. Hundreds and thousands of comic book companies making comics that were wonderful. Same thing with sports cards. The sad thing is when you start producing that much, the quality of everything comes down. You'll still get your golden tickets.
Yeah.
And I think kind of that makes sense what we're going through right now. The games are changing so quick right now. Free to play was not really a big deal until probably the last like 5, I don't know how many years, but I'd say 5 years minimum to up to 10 years ago. Before that, everybody just knew you had to pay $29.99 for a game. That was just kind of the thing. But then again, you paid that $29.99, you never had to pay for DLC. You just, if there was DLC, you just got it. Unless they made an expansion, then you had to pay $29.99 for that too. Yeah. And if there was fixes, you just downloaded it, it was all done. And there were rarely day one fixes. They were like 3 months in fixes, 6 months in fixes. So I think we're kind of in the golden age of computer games. We've hit so many avenues and so many types, and everybody's experimenting with what can get you. And like you said, mobile is the same way. Yeah. Everybody's trying to fight for your screen time. Yeah. Essentially.
It's kind of like
that's where the money comes from.
It's kind of like restaurant wars.
Yeah.
There's so many options available.
Yeah, everybody's got to come up with a way to do it. And I think we were talking about how the development works, and I think that's affected how gamers develop, because now we have the biggest problem in quality of games when they get released.
Quality assurance, yeah.
By far. I mean, how many games have you played lately that you played on day one that you were like horrified by? Or maybe you didn't even play. You just knew that I'm not playing day one because I'm going to have a 10 gig patch.
Baldur's Gate 3 was a good example of this. So here's a game that won Game of the Year, is universally renowned, loved by everybody.
Yeah.
I didn't play it early access. I'm like, this is a game that I want to experience when it's polished.
When it's ready to go.
I don't want to get so frustrated at this game or play through
the same
Act 1 so many
20 times.
times
Yeah.
that I'm just not going to want to play it again. I just don't want to do that.
Right. No,
So
I
I'm
don't
not
blame
going
you.
to.
No, I don't blame you at all.
And I bought the game when it came out. I bought it when they announced it was coming out into full release.
Right.
I pre-ordered it for full release. I did not play it during early access.
Right. I did play it during the early access, but it wasn't even that buggy during that. So, but yeah, no, I think that, okay, so talked a lot about that. Probably should move on, but I do like talking about that. I think the Golden Age makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So many games, quality's kind of gone down. Doesn't mean the quality doesn't get fixed, because it does. It's
or your game will die.
Yeah, or your game just dies. Yep. And that's kind of how you look back at, I'll use sports cards, I'm more familiar with that than comics. But you look back, you had Donruss, Fleer,
Box Top.
Box Top, you had all these different companies, Tops, and they had branches of those. You had
Tops. That's not Box Top, but Tops. That's what I was saying.
Tops, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there was Box Tops too. There was all kinds. There were so
Yeah.
many. Purina made some for a long time.
Yeah.
Purina, the dog food company, produced sports cards.
Huh.
Ridiculous. Were they quality? No, but they tried to jump in on the golden age.
Yeah.
Of, comic or cards. And, the quality went down. There was a few sparkling diamonds, but most of it was just garbage.
Yeah.
And here we are. I'm not saying the games are garbage, guys. I'm just saying that it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyway, I suppose time and addiction on these games.
Oh, I could talk a lot about that.
I mean, how about that? Maybe instead of doing that, let's talk about the impact on mental health on free to play. Changes you a little bit, I think. I don't mean like changes you, but I think that it kind of comes down to anything you have to pay for in life. Everything that you can say I have a monetary value for, you can justify based off of that monetary value. And it goes back to, and this is my personal opinion. I run a food shelf. I do a lot of charity work. And it goes back